the remix album Disco, and we realised that you could do various things in the mix that we didn't feel you could necessarily do on a proper album. So Please consists of 5 songs in a very in a concentrated. Sorry, did I say 5 songs?
Yeah, you mean
so
just
5? Those I'm talking about. Please, 5 songs per side, where each song is in a concentrated form, where you just get the song. And we thought, well, you could actually be more, daring with the mix. You could introduce 12-inch type ideas and things, and we've done that a bit on this album. With an album, you don't really get much space to go as far as you might like to. In fact, at one stage we were thinking putting out a double album where each one was a long mix. Mm-hmm. So you had like 2 or 3 tracks per side, and it was very more experimental in that way. But we also like that concentrated pop song as well. We normally write songs in that way rather than just as a dance track or a groove. So it's kind of a bit of a mix, I think. Really,
It started One More Chance as a 12-inch mix. There is a 7-inch mix was done, but the 12-inch was more exciting, and it built up and struck us as a great start for the album. Mm-hmm. It really, building up the 12-inch mix was a moodier sort of mix as well, wasn't it?
Also, it set an attitude for the rest of the album, which we liked. This sort of very hard driving, less,
thing. The very picture was the car. I remember there's a car squealing around, so the brakes squealing all through it. And so we deliberately, also we tried to make the sound slightly bigger and more outrageous, like when it's a sin, which even the 7-inch version is, although they played it on the radio, it's 5 minutes long, 4 minutes 50 seconds long, and the radio is playing it right to the end. Mm-hmm. And really, because I think it's interesting all the way through, it doesn't get boring, there's lots of things keep happening. And we're trying to do that with some of the songs to be completely over the top. Because often people restrain you and say, do you think you're overdoing this a bit? And we think, And we didn't get hung up on the idea of being tasteful and restrained. And, like a lot of groups do nowadays, I think. We just did what we liked. I think, Also, I think we're more confident now. Having made an album before December, we produce various things ourselves and stuff. I think we sort of have a very clear idea of what to do with this record. It just sounded good, I thought, didn't it? Because actually it's from the middle bit of the song. I have in mind, baby, I don't mind. Just give me more. It goes back into it. But the way he did that, it just faded. It was just fading all the percussion out, so the music wasn't really playing. And then it was Julie Mendelssohn mixed it. And then the voice came, I think, by accident, actually. I think it was to turn on more, but she didn't purpose. It just came saying, I don't mind. And it just sounded really good.
Well, we'd written a song with a person called Ali Willis, who's from Los Angeles, and she was in London, and we went in the studio and wrote the song. And she sang, the duet with Neil.
She's a songwriter.
She's co-written Boogie Wonderland and things like that. And the Neutron Dance, I think, which is one of her biggest hits, actually, probably. Which has done one in America, I think. And anyway, so we wrote the song with her, and she sang, the part which Dusty eventually sang. And we were going to put this song on Please, but, it's really fairly old.
We wrote it, I think, in 1995, before,
Yeah. Anyway, we were thinking who to use as female vocalist, and someone in our office said, why don't you use Dusty Springfield? Always going on about how good she is, and we thought, can't get Dusty Springfield because, But anyway, once you've had a bit of success, it's amazing that you can actually work with people that you would never have thought you could do. Anyway, so eventually she agreed to do it, and she flew over and sang the part. She sang it great, actually, just like good old Dusty. Well, actually, Neil's and Dusty's vocal range, is kind of similar, isn't it? And the first mix we did of that, there was less distinction between them. I mean, this one is the second mix.
I think when she has the bit, she sings by herself, since you went away, that bit. I think that's really sounds like Dusty Springfield. It sounds so like. And,
but her voice has been EQ'd and the reverb as it would have been in the 60s, so we tried to keep her sounding as she did in the 60s on this one. We got JJ from the Art of Noise who produced the first track we did, and he was a Fairlight programmer. He brought a Fairlight 2 in, not the new one, the old one, which is very rock and roll sort of instrument. And we kind of just had a good time doing it. We just vibed up, as they say, in the studio.
And we played lots of manually, didn't we?
And we just, actually, we had a very sort of like...
Couldn't really be bothered with it.
And so, rather than program everything in, a lot of it was just played by hand, really. Mm-hmm. And when you talk, actually, we always deride this human feel thing. We always sort of say poo-poo is a load of nonsense. But actually, you do get quite a good feel when everything's played by hand, because everything's just... you know, as you hear it, and that was really good fun, track to do.
It's double dropped all the way through.
There's also a vocoder, the shop in by
nice.
The great vocoders, actually, the vocoder, is vocoder on? There's a vocoder on Wake Up as well, and there's another track we've done on this album. Well, we're quite into vocoders at the moment. They're real.
They're quite a funky sound, and not just thing to start going, it's just on the thing, on the vocoder, it just sounded really good.
Yeah.
Good.
Actually, I think that's an unusual track for a shop. I think it's quite a departure from anything that's on Please.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sounds quite black for us.
Apart from the vocal.
Apart from the vocal, but if somebody black was singing, some New Yorker was singing rap over it, it would sound, I think, probably quite convincing as a New York track. Because the rhythms are a bit of a departure, I think, from the first time, where they were more. This is kind of journal, it's more sort of more down. I think that's quite, more funky, really.
Yeah, or a toy boy or a toy girl, really. It's really about sex and power. Someone who's a kept woman or a kept man or whatever, who's living with someone who's powerful and who they actually love, and but really they're sort of wondering whether it was the best thing. Look at my hopes, look at my dreams. The currency we've spent. The currency we spent could mean the money that they spent, or that the dreams were the currency that really had been spent, and that this one person has had power and success at the expense of the other. And then it's again, I love you, you pay my rent, and well, at least, I've got something to live. I'll just maybe have a bit, I love you, you pay my rent. And that's what it was about, really. And you often see that, I think, American politicians' wives, Pat Nixon or something like that, These people go through hell, I think, often, but especially when they're not really public figures, if they don't want to be public figures. Give everything up for their husband's craving for power and status.
Craving for power.
And sometimes, they sacrifice a lot of these people. Pat Nixon was an alcoholic, and Ford's wife was an alcoholic, and so that was really the story of the song. Also, maybe it's a call girl, just toy boy, as you say. Someone phones them up. They've had a recommendation at the start. You phone me in the evening on hearsay and bought me caviar and took me to a restaurant over to tell me who you are. And so it is just like a story as well. But also, I think it's true quite a lot of people's lives. Well, maybe wives, more than husbands in a marriage or something. But they have to sort of, middle-class marriage, they have to entertain the boss to dinner and drive the children to school. And they sort of dress up nicely, to be, people often said before that, a lot of wives are often supposed to be kind of a brilliant secretary and sort of a wonderful whore at the same time. And I think a lot of people's marriages are like that. And, it's about women feel trapped, I think, even middle class existences, whether it be in England or Dallas or anywhere.
Of course. Yeah, actually, on this album, quite a few tracks of Fairlight 3, the new Fairlight, which we didn't use at all on Please. In fact, I don't think it was even out then. Fairlight 3, the Suburbia was the first track we've done with the Fairlight 3, and some of the sounds are very realistic. Like some of those drum sounds are incredible, actually. You'd be surprised actually. A lot of rock albums use Fairlight drum sounds, because Andy Richards should we say? Anyway, Andy Richards was going off to Mutt Lange's studio to put the drum sounds on. Was it Def Leppard?
Someone or other.
Anyway, some really big rock group, and it was, you know, he was going along with the Fairlight 3 to put his sample drum sounds on. No.
So I mean, a lot of people, I think people don't.
You know, so it's not just groups like us that use sample. I mean, a lot of rock albums have sample.
You really cut the corners. You know,
No, it's not. It's not. Of course,
It's
it
the
costs more. Actually, that wasn't going to be the case on that. We had a whole arrangement for orchestra, scored by Angelo Badalamenti, who'd done the music for the film Blue Velvet, and the score came over with our manuscripts and everything, and but we hadn't got the orchestra in time. We were actually planning to do it with an orchestra, and we needed to have the album finished by Sunday. The Sunday that was gone, and we couldn't get an orchestra until the following Tuesday, and so rather than just put the album back, we thought, well, we'll get a Fairlight in. And so the whole score was programmed into the Fairlight, each part. So you've got the violins, the bass, the woodwind, the brass. Everything is programmed in on a separate channel, and. This sounds like an easy way out, but it actually takes longer to do. If you have an orchestra, the orchestra comes in and in 2 hours they just play it straight away. This took days, and actually a Fairlight programmer costs about $1,000, anyway, a lot of money. And it's difficult because each instrument takes longer to hit the note, has a different attack time. So you've got to reposition all the sounds so that they're in time with each other, and so the process is a lot harder and more time consuming. But it's interesting because it sounds kind of like an orchestra, but it also sounds like a Fairlight, I think, and I like that.
I mean, it seemed to fit the idea of the song. But sometimes, if you're in love or something like that, or it's about unrequited love or something like that, and you hear a song on the radio which is normally never really meant to just like pop song.
Sure.
And suddenly the lyrics will suddenly think, oh, I don't know just what you mean. They sound very, very specific to what you're going through. And so I chose these two, Tainted Love and Love is Strange, which are both songs really about love going wrong. So they seem to fit the idea of the song. I quite like the line actually. I quite like mentioning other songs in a song. It's quite cool. It would certainly fit the mood of the song. Both the songs would. Tainted Love and Love is Strange. Just that they're both moody love songs, not about love necessarily being a wonderful thing, but about what I'm going to go through. So they seem to fit the whole feel of the thing. Also, I like the fact that it was very prosaic setting. I stood at the kitchen sink, my radio played songs like Tainted Love and Love is Strange. I don't think there's many people mention kitchen sinks in their podcast.
No, I don't think so.
It must say something about me, I suppose, but a lot of this, of course, is a romanticised idea. The idea of the lonely man in the big city street. I was imagining one which has in New York for some reason. And in fact, for some reason, I would specifically imagine that I'm walking down Central Park South when in front of Central Park, where those horses are. I would specifically imagine that radio one which I always have, I don't know why. And it's very cold and raining, and because I just live on I worked for Star East America, and we used to walk home. I lived in Central Park West, and you get those bitter winds blow around the corners in New York, blowing over from the river. And when you turn around that corner past the Plaza Hotel, you get this wind blowing down Central Park South. It's like in December, and you wish you got a taxi or a bus or something. Anyway, sorry. So I think there is the idea of that at least that's what I like walking around the streets. By myself, what I still do. It's a sort of romanticism there, I suppose, as well. People don't really. Last night I went out to dinner with a friend, and she was going to drive me home. I said to drive it. And I walked up the King's Road, And I know some people, actually the pubs have just come out as well. It was actually a stupid idea. And actually several people said, it's on the Pet Shop Boys. I mean, it's all right, and people often are quite pleased, don't they? People very rarely hassle you. And also, of course, if you keep you don't look people in the eye, they often won't even realise anyway. So when often looks them in the eye, they go, it's him. Otherwise you can just carry on. Because I mean, most of the record is about real people rather than fantastic sort of people. I mean, it's something that's quite prosaic, I think. Like the kitchen sink in Rock, you pay my rent. And I think it's deliberately, I like that sort of prosaicness. So it's more to do with that, but there's no comment there on if you're a gobshite walk down the street. It's never a good
We'd recorded the track with Andy Richards, and then Julian Mendelssohn, we got to remix it, and we put the tape on, and we were doing something or other, and he accidentally recorded over all the drums in the beginning, and he wiped them. And actually, fortunately, we realised that we were wiping the track, and so we stopped it quickly, and then we went back and we thought, we've wiped it, but it was only the drums that were missing. So that's why the introduction starts with no drums. But it's really good that it doesn't though. And the is a mixture, heady. It's a dangerous area, this sound. It's such good fun.
Very reminders in Italy.
The Beastie Boys actually just put like 2 bars of someone's rhythm track and sing over it.
Over again?
It's brilliant.
I think it's quite good that people do that, because I don't think people realise, although you do that, you're still doing this.
No.
You're still thinking of something new, really.
I know. Well, also, a lot of that music wasn't getting heard by the general public or released because everyone was scared over the copyright thing.
Yeah.
So there was a vast area of music, dance music, which was happening, which nobody was getting to hear really, except for some if you went to the clubs, because of that reason. It was.
Heavy metal new sort of
it was heavy metal then became ace because you took it out of context.
Well, the Beastie Boys, I know, there's No Sleep Till Brookham's and heavy metal shows.
Yeah, that was true. Run DMC, weren't they?
Run DMC, but then that's what's in America. It was a heavy metal record. Was people rapping there?
They were band though, weren't they?
They were honest. Aerosmith was it?
Actually, I like the link between rock music and dance music.
Yeah,
because a lot of it, those big drum sounds, they were kind of like lifted from rock albums and then shoved into a dance track. So and a lot of the also noise rhythms are very rock.
Yes,
and they're very rock rhythms, and yet
the Noise were the first to do that.
Yeah, they were, and they're very, and also it's black as well, which is really good.
Hard though is the most hot Spanish song on the album, I think. It could almost be like a Madonna song or something, because it's very it's quite joyful, I think, and happy, and usually say across it's real dance pop song. But I like this. I think it's just got a nice feeling. Well, I think you end up where you started from, really, on the street.
Yeah.
And I mean, King's Cross is about, it takes the image of down and out and people around King's Cross Station, and it's really about people who get left out now in England or Britain outside of today. It just starts them out the back of the queue sent to feel a sign of the government. There's just the idea that under Mrs. Thatcher's government, the people who feel the smack of the government are getting pushed out are the people who have the least in the first place. And that Mrs. Thatcher is criticising the day before the election. I think people who dribble and drool about caring, and that she's encouraged a society where people are encouraged not to care about anyone outside their immediate family circle. I suppose Mrs. Thatcher would say the idea is everyone cared and looked after their own, no one need looking after them. And of course our life isn't like that. And so that was really what it's about. And then King's Cross is the station in Bristol where you come down from the northeast, it's the most important thing. And a lot of northerners, you get northerners hanging around there, you might get the train about football supporters going back to Newcastle or Sunderland or somewhere. And of course, as you get lots of downouts, prostitution. It's quite, it's also a very run-down area as well, King's Cross. It's quite depressing. It also got worse over the last few years. You were saying as well,
Oh yeah, I was walking past King's Cross, because I live in Islington, I was walking into central London, just got nice, it was
Walking?
Yeah, it was a nice day.
Both are walking.
It was a really nice sunny day, and it was a Sunday afternoon. I walked past King's Cross, and there was somebody, on crutches, just lying asleep in between the bus shelters, and then further back were lots of alcoholics all drinking there. And this was on a Sunday afternoon. It's really depressing. So it's just like the place is littered with dirty, smelly bodies, and it just, it's not very nice, really. Should have rounded up, should have been at home. No, I'm joking. It's great when when some records, they get a good phrase, and the song doesn't really need anything more than that. It's like jack your body or relax. If you can get a good word, I think it's pretty good. Like Mel and Kim had was showing out.
That's right.
And it sort of just has a kind of meaning, and you don't. Like jack your body was a good one. That was all that was in that, wasn't it? Just jack your body. It looks like thank you and good night. It looks like that's the end.
That's right. I didn't mean anything like that, Thank you. It's not one of our words, really, is it?
No, please is, but thanks isn't really an actual word.
Actually, it's a word. It's very English word, isn't it? Like please was. People say actually a lot.
And they do.
Actually, at Betty Byrne, we co-produced one of the tracks with Wick, we co-produced, came from New York. And he commented that when we came into the studio in the morning, we'd say, both couldn't say independently, so it sounds quite good actually. And he was annoyed that we never said anything more than that. We never said sensible, we didn't get it. We just said, sounds quite good. And also we would say actually. They said, oh, actually. And he started raving like I never praising anything. And it was Jacob was, do you know that we should go for the album actually? And then we all laughed. It just seemed to fit. And also actually it's quite, there's about actual people, actual places, actual events. There's more real this album, so it's fit on that score. And also actually it's quite a slightly pushy, confident word, I'd like with a drink actually, and so it's quite a pushy sort of word. And also because it's disguised as a polite word as well.
Some of the songs would have been written in the way that I can't remember which ones. Some of them
It's the same was written when
It's the same was written in that period when I used to travel
long
down.
time, 5 years ago.
But this
Rain
time,
was written that period as well.
but this time we actually booked into this. It was like a stately home type place, which felt like
big house in
it was a big house and a stately home. Yeah, a big house which felt like it was in the country, although it was actually.
30 minutes from
It
Kingston.
was like
We
we actually thought we were booking into somewhere like amazing in the country, but it was actually Kingston.
It was
Anyway,
Exeter was the other side of the river, it's Hampton Court.
Anyway, because we thought, well, we're never going to get to write something. We thought, well, we don't want to do it in some horrible demo studio. We'll have to go somewhere nice. So we booked a couple of days. Not most people should like go away for months. Anyway, we went there for a
3
couple of days. And we wrote a few songs there. And it actually doesn't really take much time to write a song. Really, you don't need months. Because if you set aside months to do it, you probably wouldn't do anything until the last few days. You think, God, we better write some songs. We've been here 3 months now. But when so
we had ideas. I went in there with the idea of writing a song called Shopping, and we had bits of things to work on anyway, and so we just put down we thought of rough ideas. Then we went to a demo studio for a couple of weeks and 3 weeks, and we
made them properly.
Yeah, and we demoed a couple of old songs.